Sal Benz.
Live when the mic snap.
Justin.
In the cut, bring the fight back. Windy City talk, turn it down, that's that. Welcome to the show, it's Bulls on Tap. Bulls on Tap, pull it up, press play. Chi-Town talk, we can run it all day. From the tip-off buzz to the post-game rap. If you rock with the Bulls, you rock with Bulls on Tap.
What's up, Bulls Nation? This is Bulls on Tap. I am your host, Justin, a.k.a. J Talks Hoops, joined by my co-host, Sal Bass of Horns Over Hoops. How you doing today, Sal?
Pretty freaking good, man. I'm excited to talk some Bulls because we got a fun guest today, and I'm just hoping I can fill the shoes that he laid out for us for the start of this pod. So I'm going to let you introduce him, though, because I'm excited to hear it.
Yep, as Sal said, we have a great guest on tap here. It is the On Tap legend, Mo Banks. He's currently running the Narratives Per Possession podcast. How you doing, Mo?
I'm doing great. Really happy to be back on the pod for the first time in the season, and glad you guys are keeping it going, man. So just kudos to you, Sal, and Justin for continuing to give Bulls fans content that they deserve.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed what you're doing with Narratives Per Possession. I'm just totally guessing here, but I think you're kind of like me, where you're obviously a Bulls fan, but you love the NBA in general, and the Bulls, I mean, you can get kind of burnt out from them. So it's nice to see you pivot into more nationwide coverage. Why don't you tell our guests kind of what you're doing with the the Narratives Per Possession podcast? Because I think it's a great pod. Absolutely.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I mean, for many people who followed Bulls on Tap for some time. I mean, obviously, I was writing prominently and making my own features on the pod last season. I reached a point where, if I'm being candid, like I couldn't keep up with the full 82-game Bulls schedule. But also, like, it's not like the Bulls' quality of basketball makes you want to keep up with 82 games of that stuff anyway. But I needed to strike a balance, really, where I could still be connected to NBA basketball, but frankly just have a more manageable schedule for how I did that. And a lot of just creative thought came to mind. I went ahead and pivoted from Bulls on Tap, and then I launched Narratives Per Possession right around the playoffs last season. And yeah, the aim is really just to try to cover the league at wide and deliver better basketball narratives to folks.
Yeah, you're doing a great job with that, man. I like that every episode it's like a different fan base or writer, like a different team is being covered. So doing a great job with the full scope of it. We're here at Bulls on Tap, so we're going to try to keep it a little more Bulls centric today. And we should start out with the big news, or supposed news. It was reported by Joe Cowley that at the end of the year we could see Billy Donovan potentially stepping down. Sal, how do you feel about that?
I'll be honest with you. I feel like it's a silver lining to a dark season, because I know this is something that the Bulls fans have kind of come to want. This is kind of something that they've wanted since I'll be honest with you, since the beginning of last season. They were calling for Billy Donovan. So to hear that there might be a chance of him stepping down, I like that a little bit better than the front office just flat out canning him. I like it when he steps away himself instead of the man getting fired. That way it doesn't really tarnish the reputation too much, because I still have a lot of respect for Billy Donovan, man. I really do. I wanted nothing but good things for him. No fan wants a coach to be unsuccessful. I feel like that just speaks negatively to their character. But the fact that he's doing it on his own terms and opening the door in the cusp of this rebuild to go out and get that next big coach, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm excited for it.
Mo, how do you feel about it?
It's an interesting report from Joe Cowley, I have to say. I wasn't necessarily expecting that at this time of the year. And I'll also say I'm not completely surprised. If I recall, I believe Billy has talked about some of his own sort of family challenges he's dealt with throughout this season. And I think that just is incredible that he's gone through the loss of family members, and he's somehow still willing himself to coach this basketball team, given the caliber of what the team can actually put on the floor night in, night out, the ceiling that it has. I know I don't know if I can handle that. Like if I had to just deal with a mid basketball team and I'm going through like all of these other challenges. So it's probably, I mean, my feeling is like Billy probably should like just like there's nothing else that he needs to do with the Chicago Bulls at this point because to be honest, if Billy goes, what I like about the Cali report is like it's putting it into a wider point of view of okay, if Billy's out, then Mark Eversley probably wants to find some ways to get out, but unfortunately, because he's attached to Arturas Karnisovas, who really wants him? If I'm another NBA front office, I don't know why I'm hiring Mark Eversley for anything, honestly, given 6 years of the Bulls. And if you talk to Sixers fans, he probably doesn't have a lot of fans from that organization, that fan base either, given the track record. So really, it should just become a very fast hazmat clean of the entire like Advocate Center. Like if Billy goes, AK has no business being in that organization next season.
Yeah, that was kind of my reaction to it too. Shout out to Hayes over at the Chicago Bulls Central podcast, but he tweeted out like do a GIF reaction for this news that Billy might be gone, and my reaction was Jim from The Office when he just like shrugs like because it's like if Billy's gone but AK's still here, nothing is changing. Like Billy is a symptom of a larger problem. Until the Bulls handle that larger problem, we're gonna be here, every March going forward. So Sal, how do you feel about just the organization as a whole? Do you think this could just be AK getting a shot to hire a second coach? Do you think this could be a total cleaning house situations? What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I like Mo's angle. I like the if you're going to clean house the right way and start fresh, because let's just face it, this season kind of left a sour taste in the fans' mouth here. Not so much just the losing record, but then the trading away fan favorite Ayo Dosunmu, really having just a bunch of mishmash of roster players on the team where you don't quite know who's going to be on the team next year. I feel like the Bulls fans are owed a complete cleaning of the house. Now, what do I think might happen? I think AK's job is pretty safe. I think that he does exactly what you guys says. If we see Billy Donovan leave, he's just going to hire a budget coach that we can find somewhere. And that's it. I mean, I would like for them to take a look at not so much just personnel as in GM and coach. I'd like for them to evaluate the medical staff and the training staff, because something is to be said about all of these injuries that we've sustained over the years. I mean, and some of these injuries are multi-game injuries. I mean, something's got to be done about that. So
100% agree on that. One thing I'm curious about, Mo, is from my outside perspective, there seems to be a disconnect with Billy and the front office, that it feels like that disconnect is wider now than any other season I can remember, because you have the front office, they're trading for Rob Dillingham or Leonard Miller, and Billy really didn't play them until he was forced to. Billy, his mandate is still he's going to try to win games, where the front office's moves kind of suggested they wanted to lean more towards going for a tank, even though their moves also suggest they weren't fully committing to a tank. When you're watching them and you're seeing the way it's played out the last couple of months, do you think there's a widening disconnect between front office and the coach here?
It wouldn't surprise me, to be honest, because so you look at Billy Donovan's substitution patterns over not even this season. I mean, really the entirety of his season, or the entirety of Billy Donovan's tenure since he come to the Bulls. He's expected to have a quote-unquote win-now roster. I mean, you can argue to what degree that might have been with sort of the initial 35 games of, Zach, Vooch, DeMar, Alonzo Ball, and AC all on the floor. I mean, they did play some winning basketball for a bit. And I would presume that's what Billy Donovan thought he signed for when he came to Chicago. And then promptly after that, it became obvious that Arturas Karnisovas had zero plan B for Alonzo Ball disappearing for like 2.5 years. And then he just like kicked the can and literally did nothing for 3 seasons and just kind of looked at Billy and said, "Hey, Billy, you figured it out," basically. And to Billy's credit, he did. The Bulls had a zombie voodoo season where like they're a top 10 defense despite that. Billy has been pretty consistently wired to try to like grind out wins, and I can't see that changing. And it certainly hasn't changed post deadline either. Although, yeah, the direction of the front office basically, in theory, was we're tearing it down. But they go and get Colin Sexton, they trade for Colin Sexton, trade for Simons, keep them for an inexplicable reason. They go get, I forget, he's 30 or something, like way too old Gerson Yabusele, way too old Nick Richards. You don't want Eason Dang. And I know that's like our topic of the evening, but still, like, this isn't a rebuild. This isn't a tank, because tanking implies a direction. And there's still, to date, is no direction from this front office. So, yeah, I do think it would not be unreasonable that there's some chasm there, and probably not all that different than, say, like John Paxson. Like, Billy's going to have to fire himself. I don't think anybody's going to fire Billy Donovan.
Yeah, I could see that. John Paxson had to walk into the office and straight up tell them, I don't know how to do my job anymore. I don't think Billy Donovan would say he doesn't know how to do his job anymore, but he would resign, obviously. And I'm on record. I've said the Bulls' tenure has done nothing but hurt Billy Donovan's reputation. Like, before this, he had never missed the playoffs with OKC, multiple national championships with Florida. Like, he was thought of as a really good coach. Now he's kind of the butt of jokes in coaching circles. But you mentioned Colin Sexton, Mo, and Sal, I want to get your thoughts on this real quick. Speaking of Colin Sexton, the man had himself a game yesterday. I missed most of that first half, and when I tuned in, they were up 21, and I believe Colin Sexton had like 23 points, and I wasn't sure if my NBA app was lying to me or not. What did you guys think of that win yesterday? Because there's a lot of people in Bulls Nation that are mad, the tanking crowd, a lot of people just finding reasons to be mad at it. I'm kind of meh on the whole thing. Like, we're too far behind the teams below us in the standings for a real tank, and it's March basketball. So what did you think of that win last night, Sal?
You know me, I'm going to cheer every single Chicago Bulls victory, no matter if we're 1-81 and that's our last win of the season, or the records in the other direction. And the fact that it came up against a good opponent like the Houston Rockets, it just speaks wonders for the team, because, dare I say it, we have a bit of chemistry and click starting to form, which Bulls fans should be excited for, because it's a sign of better things to come. It shows that this team does have pieces that we can take in from next season. It shows that we do have hope. As far as Colin Sexton is concerned, though, I mean, I know he had a lot of mixed signals walking into the building, because there were some fans that were like, why did we get him? There were some fans that were happy that we got him, but the man is 27 years old. He's still fairly young. I mean, I feel as though we got a great sample size of what he can do during these games that he's came to the Bulls. And I feel as though the only thing that's going to be the caveat would be the price tag on the contract. Lord only knows how much he's going to be asking for and how long. And that's up to the Bulls to decide if they want to invest in that type of that caliber of a player going forward. But if the price is right, I could see a future with Colin Sexton on this team.
I could see it. Don't necessarily know that I want to see it. I could also see him playing his way into another team's mid-level exception this offseason. Mo, what are your thoughts on just the brand of basketball the Bulls have been playing lately, and the Colin Sexton of it all, getting numbers that lead to more competitive games from a guy who might not be in the long-term plans?
Yeah, it's I think my overarching reaction, I mean, it's probably not all that different than you, honestly, Justin. Like, I thought the win, I was mad about the win. I'm like, okay, it's a win. It's cool. It's fine. Because, yeah, like, I didn't see the first half, but I did watch the second half of the game last night. And, I'll let me also shout out another fellow Bulls on Tap alumni. Drew Stevens had a good, insightful tweet this morning about that whole situation, right? Like, I think you can say it's a win, it's fine, but it wasn't necessarily like a development win, because you had Colin Sexton really being the highest usage guy in that fourth quarter. I mean, like, him carrying that load, that's cool, but like, are the Bulls really going to make Colin Sexton like the primary guy for the foreseeable future? If they are, I think that's questionable GMing, front office decision making, to say the least. But if that's what they want to do, cool, fine, that's on them. Wouldn't be my choice. But I don't really know what to take from that, because it's like Colin Sexton is the primary guy, and he's now on his fourth team right now. Like that just doesn't give me a lot of hope and optimism for anything. And yes, he's 27, but if you talk to like draft people, like people in the scouting world, they would tell you quickly 27 is like he is what he is. Like you should not hope anything in terms of an upside bump in that. Like that's his age 27 year is like he might as well be like he's probably closer to retirement than he is to like upside.
Yep, I would agree. It's one of those things where maybe in the past you could hope for some upside for a guy at age 27 because he wasn't getting to the NBA till 21, 22,
exactly,
maybe even 23. And Colin Sexton, he's been in the NBA, what was he, 19 when he got drafted? So kind of seems like a finished product to me. I don't dislike the guy at all. I appreciate that he plays hard. He's got that little bit of a psychopath in him too. It's just, as a Bulls fan, we end up here every March, and at a certain point, you're just like, guys, it's like Forrest Gump said, stupid is what stupid does, and the Bulls they be doing a lot of stupid stuff right now. So, but we're
one more thing I would
talk about.
But one more thing I would say about the game too last night, I wouldn't completely discount the fact that the Houston Rockets really just kind of like imploded, and they've been having some struggles lately. And I think for the Bulls to get that win. Good on the Bulls for that win. The Houston Rockets may have some real problems, like longer term, because like not having Steven Adams, that's hurt their rebounding, and that's kind of the trade-off that made their weird voodoo offense of like no threes at all work for most of the season. It's like they're trading off ball handling and shooting for just like very high level elite offensive rebounding, and they don't have that anymore. And despite Alperen Şengün's best effort to try to like carry that game on his back last night, I think he still has some limitations, unfortunately. Is like, I don't know if he can ever be truly the primary guy. And it's just, there's some wonky things about the Rockets where honestly, I think the Bulls took advantage of the situation, but I don't know if the Bulls demonstrate they have an advantage.
Right. Yeah, I took that game, not to say anything negative about the Bulls, but that game to me was more the Rockets messing up rather than the Bulls coming through. Now, Sal, I know you were watching that game. You said you were rooting for wins. Were you getting a little scared in that second half when Kevin Durant clearly was like, okay, we can't lose to the Chicago Bulls. I need to do something. And he was hitting some shots, man.
I mean, anyone's going to get nervous when Kevin Durant does that little lean that you do when you have the controller on 2K, yes. Do that little lean and, now it's serious. Anytime KD does one of those, you're naturally going to start sweating because as the caliber of a player he is, the Hall of Famer that he's going to be, he'll take a 20-point lead and he'll take a 20-point deficit and he'll turn it into a 20-point lead in the blink of an eye. So, yeah, of course, anytime you see KD start to get a little mad, I sweat a little bit.
As you should. He's been making people sweat for over 2 decades. Is it over 2 decades? It's coming up on 2 decades.
Coming up on what
year?
Coming up on
year 18, 19. Yeah. So Kevin Durant, man, one of the best to ever do it. But today we are here to talk about hope, talk about the future. We're here to talk about the free agent class because the Chicago Bulls, I believe they have the second most cap space in the NBA this offseason. I think the Brooklyn Nets have them beat by a couple million. They're in position to make a big splash. The problem is that's not necessarily how business is done in the NBA anymore. There's no LeBron James or Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. There's not even a Carlos Boozer really in this upcoming free agent class. Mo, I know I reached out to you a couple weeks ago, told you to, dig into the class a little bit so we could talk about it. Digging into the class overall, what are your takeaways about the class of free agents we're getting this offseason?
Yeah, it's an interesting point of view because honestly, if AK's mindset of how he's going to engage with like some sort of like significant roster turnaround is going into the restricted free agency market, I just don't know if he's really thinking like, I don't know if he's grounded in reality because this is to me, like when I thought about it and when I looked at it, honestly, it's really no different than like his whole like dumpster diving mantra of like, I want young players with experience. Like the restricted free agency market really over the last, just the same way as the unrestricted free agency market, like you haven't seen a team secure like, from the outside, a restricted free agent of consequence, probably in this decade at all, to be honest. I wrote a piece in the past offseason for Narrative Per Possession, kind of just summarizing what was going on with that sort of like restricted free agency saga. As Bulls fans, that we're all pretty keyed in on what was going on with Josh Giddey, but also now, like, coincidentally, funny enough, Cam Thomas, who is like maybe done in the NBA altogether now. So Giddey, Cam Thomas, Quentin Grimes, right? And then the other one I'm forgetting.
Kuminga.
And then Kuminga. Like, none of these are players where it's like they're representing any point of view of like, this is the player that you make your franchise cornerstone. And even with Giddey, right? Like he's doing like good things in a box score and he's like getting numbers. But I think we all understand that Josh Giddey is not ever going to be like the primary offensive option because that's just not his game. Like, I mean, he's best suited to be, I suppose, a facilitator if like people buy into the concept of facilitating in 2026. I don't, for the record. Like, I just don't think like if your point guard can't break down offense with the ball consistently, then they're really not a point guard. So I digress a bit, but like where I'm going with this is when I look at the available free agency market for restricted free agencies, it's kind of like three ways to like peel this onion. Basically, I looked at it like this. I started first with just as a process of elimination, really like crossing off the list all of the available. And actually, what I'll say, I went to pull together the list, right? I went to I say Spotrac. Sometimes people say Spotrac, but I went to the Spotrac list of available restricted free agents right now. I'll drop it in the chat. The first thing I did, just crossing off the list, right, is like I want to eliminate all of the most unrealistic restricted free agents out there. And I view those as, players who are going to be, and maybe it won't let me drop. I'll share it one way or another, but like players who are like clearly rotational players on their current team, right? If a player's playing like 20 plus minutes per game, I just can't see a franchise letting that player walk or letting some offer sheet deter them from keeping them on their roster. And so we can just, to me, eliminate the big names that people would hope probably are available for the Bulls, right? I don't see Yegor Diamin leaving the Brooklyn Nets. That's easy money for them to lock in, and they have flexibility, and they're quite content to just let all those guards they drafted last summer, like just either develop or not develop. Benedict Mathurin, right? Like, I would be concerned if the Bulls were able to like pry him away with some fat offer sheet. That's not something I would be into. And again, we mentioned Bulls could have had Ousmane Deng if they chose to, but obviously they chose to go a different direction. So he's probably not in the cards for the Bulls. Jalen Duren, I'm sure the Detroit Pistons will max Jalen Duren if it comes to that, right? Like, he's not going anywhere. They need him for Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren are absolutely like cornerstone to the Detroit Pistons' future. Like, it would be shocking if the Bulls somehow came up with a way to pry him away via restricted free agency of all things. And then, Mark Williams, Tari Eason, Clifford, Peyton Watson, Spencer Jones, also another nugget. Like, I just don't see any of these players like getting pried away because of an offer sheet. So that'd be my first thought, is like, there are guys like that where I don't see that as realistic. The second tier of like process elimination I went through also is just like, and this will go back to like the way I view, like, for example, Colin Sexton. Like, there are just some restricted free agents where they're restricted free agent in like name only. Like, we talk about, for example, Quentin Post or Pat Spencer. Like, Quentin Post is going to be 26 at some point this season. Pat Spencer's going to be 30, but they're in the restricted free agency pool. So, like, guys like that, I wouldn't be looking at or expecting or want on the Bulls. And then, just to round out, you can also throw in Ochai Agbaji. You can throw in Jalen Wilson. If we want to be, I guess, funny, like maybe this is finally the pathway to like Bulls fans who are still on the Giannis train. Like, you could technically sign Thanasis, I guess, to an RFA according to Spotrac. And then you got Keaton Wallace out there who's 27. Like, these are players where it's just like they don't, to me, fit the intent of what the restricted free agency with market should be for the Bulls. So that leaves me now with like who are realistic targets the Bulls could consider, and I would say these are all like at best like margin signings with the potential of an upside. Like, I'll start with like who's on the outside of the Bulls organization. I mean, there are two RFAs the Bulls can just retain. But first, I mean, probably the most obvious market option I would say for the Bulls in terms of restricted free agents, like they should do their best to see if they can make a competitive run at Walker Kessler from Utah. The question I have is it really around his availability. He struggled with being healthy. He's like, so there's some risk involved in that, right? And I think with every one of the restricted free agencies, the Bulls should realistically target. It's not going to be a perfect solution. I don't think they're going to find like superstars going through the restricted free agency market. I think they just, these are all different flavors of an upside bet or fixer up project, which again, I guess that fits into AK's whole, I want young players with experience dumpster diving thing. So, I mean, like a Walker Kessler would be one. I would recommend perhaps maybe the Bulls also look at Keshad Johnson. Let me look up. I forget what team he's on.
He's on the Heat, isn't he?
I believe on the Heat. Yeah, so like Keshad Johnson from the Heat, that might be another one I would recommend. And then Jameer Watkins. Okay. Those would be the top three, honestly, I would recommend the Bulls look at in terms of like viable or like realistic. Jameer Watkins, he's on the Washington Wizards right now. Players like that, and what you would get out of any one of them, I would say is for example, I talked about like, with Walker Kessler, is it an upside play where hopefully you just, you're banking on him being available so he can actually give the Bulls some legitimate front court size in light of now, the departure of Nikola Vucevic. And, to me, Nick Richards is just like a third string backup. Like, I don't think there should be any long-term plans about Nick Richards. The Bulls need to find a long-term center, just point blank. So there would be that. Jameer Watkins, if you look at his numbers, you look at his profile on either like Basketball Reference or certainly Data Baller, what pops to me is like he has some play finishing talent. So like that's an upside experiment perhaps for the Bulls to see, like, can you actually develop him to be something more than just a play finisher? Can you add something else in terms of offensive contribution to what the Bulls are trying to do? And I imagine like they would value that for sure, given how much the Bulls like to be in transition. But, if he could be a cutter in half court or just like anything, could he add to his game? And the same thing for Keshad Johnson too. That's how I'm thinking about restricted free agency and from that standpoint. And then as far as like the restricted free agencies that free agents that are already in the Bulls organization, right? Yuki Kawa. I never can say his last name correctly.
No, just call him Yuki.
Yeah, we all know who Yuki is. I mean, technically he is a restricted free agency. And likely what it would amount to, because he's on two ways, the Bulls could just like sign him to a vet min via restricted free agency. And so there might be a world where like that's perhaps worth something. It's probably less because of how many guards are in that roster right now. And I think that's something that also frustrates me about like, retaining a Colin Sexton, retaining Anthony Simons for no good reason, honestly, because like you kind of like kill the opportunity to perhaps let Yuki run for a bit and see, like, even though given his size, like, is he just like a potential TJ McConnell-ish type spark plug that you could leverage in a second unit? I don't think we'll really ever get a good read on that because I just see it hard to retain Yuki given the glut of guards that now exist on the roster yet again. And then obviously it's Jaden Ivey, and the Jaden Ivey situation is becoming weirder by the day. Like just the update yesterday about the bumping of the knees. I was initially sort of interested and intrigued by it because I mean I am a Purdue alumni, so I followed Ivey for a long time, and I thought there was a world where maybe Ivey could do some interesting things, but then he only ends up playing 4 games, and you really haven't had the ability. To me, I think the most critical decision point is like, how does Ivey look sharing for Josh Giddey? If we're not going to see that, I could go either way because I imagine there's some people are probably like, oh, well, just don't keep him. And I'll say selfishly, is a pro Ivy person, I might not really even want Ivy to be in the Bulls organization after this season because he needs to be somewhere where he can actually develop. I don't see that happening here. Like the Bulls do not have a track record of organizationally developing guys. Kobe went and got a trainer and became like a serviceable, most improved candidate. I don't think anything the Bulls organization did any favors for Kobe. And honestly, I mean, this is a hot take that's like fresh out the presses. Like, I look at what Io's doing right now in Minnesota. I don't know if I don't know if the Bulls can get a ton of credit for Io either because he has ups and downs while he's on the Bulls. And frankly, he just looks like he's playing like the natural sort of basketball he's playing in Illinois versus any of the Billy Ball stuff right now. And I think there's something to be said about that. It's like, who have the Bulls truly developed in AK's tenure at this point? I don't know. I don't feel that there's a strong case to be made about anybody at this point.
Yeah, you're not wrong, man. I mean, you see how Io's playing. That Boston game was like the full scope of Io because the stats didn't jump off the page, but he did a little bit of everything. He finished in the transition. He was getting rebounds. He was getting assists. He's the one guy on the Timberwolves who willingly passes the ball to Rudy Gobert. You could make the argument that he's the one guy who's new enough that he's not smart enough to not pass it to Rudy Gobert yet because that guy just doesn't catch a lot of passes. But Io, that game, it impressed me because he was guarding Jason Tatum in possessions and holding his own. He was guarding Jaylen Brown in possessions, holding his own. So yeah, the Io thing in Minnesota, it's been fun to watch. But I want to backtrack on what you said a little bit because I came into this exercise 99% sure that everybody's number one target in restricted free agency was going to be Walker Kessler. So Sal, my question for you as it pertains to Walker Kessler is my hesitancy with Walker Kessler is it seems like the Utah Jazz have never really believed in him. It seems like he's been on the trade block pretty much since he got there. There's really never been news of them negotiating a contract extension with him. Does that worry you at all that a team that's had him in-house really doesn't seem to be too concerned with keeping him?
I mean, it's definitely concerning, but I always take that with a grain of salt because there's just players out there that just don't fit in a particular system. And this could be the fact that Walker Kessler just doesn't fit in the Utah Jazz, maybe in a different organization like the Chicago Bulls, where you have a prominent ball distributor in Josh Giddey who can find him down low. He makes very good passes down low and with modest space in the floor and whatever draft pick we end up coming in, I can see where Walker Kessler is a little bit better in a Chicago Bulls organization to where I would not really consider what the Utah Jazz think of Walker Kessler. I'll say, let me make that gamble on my own. Now the question out there is, do you go all out? Do you throw the money at him just to get him? Or do you give him a realistic salary based on what you feel he deserves? Like, do you try to overpay him to kind of pull a bluff on the Utah Jazz? At the same time, they reject, and now you're stuck with another big contract. Or do you just say, hey, we'll try. We'll offer him what he's worth. If he comes here, cool. If he doesn't, he doesn't.
Yeah, I mean that is one thing we should mention too. And Mo, you'll know this probably better than anybody, is if you are going to get somebody in restricted free agency, you're not getting them on a value contract. You have to overpay them. I always think of the summer the Houston Rockets signed Jeremy Lin as a restricted free agent, Omer Asik is a restricted free agent. They had to overpay both those guys. They put poison pill contracts the last year of their deal. You can't do that anymore in the NBA. They changed how that works. But when you look at Walker Kessler, Mo, what do you think his offer sheet is going to look like? Because the Hornets will have some cap space to play with this offseason. They might need a 5, although Kalkbrenner has been really good for them. The Nets, they have cap space, and nobody really knows what their long-term plan is at the 5. The Bulls obviously need him at the 5. What do you think that offer sheet is going to potentially look like?
Yeah, so what's interesting about Walker Kessler, let me look up where he's drafted, because it's a lot of things that come into play when you start talking about restricted free agents, like offer sheets. I mean, one is, what sort of qualifying offer will they receive? And
22nd.
Yeah. Okay. So he's a late first round pick. So I know Walker Kessler's last average value on his current rookie scale contract is $3.3 million. So there's a website I found while I was doing sort of the homework for this that's interesting. There's a website called, where is it? SalarySwish.com, and they have a qualifying offer calculator. So according to SalarySwish.com, Walker Kessler probably is in line for a $7.1 million qualifying offer, which, if you think about that, I mean, just in an absolute sense, it's probably not that. It's just not that sizable of a contract, honestly. So if that's the starting point for him, I seem to remember, like, I have to think. I would want to look back at the numbers, but it feels like that's like Io's RFA sort of territory for what his qualifying offer is. And remember, I mean, Io went like that whole summer basically with nothing, and then eventually he came back on that, like, team friendly deal. I can't see Walker Kessler really commanding like a huge offer sheet unless like it has to be like, basically, to put this in like business terms, some irrational buyer just has to decide like, oh, we're just going to like really go all in on Walker Kessler. Centers in general, I mean, like Nick Claxton's declining deal, I know, for example, like the last year of his declining deal is going to come down to a $20 million number. I would say 20 to 25 million seems to be like a ballpark number for like a high level, I should say at least a starting level center in the NBA. Walker Kessler's availability again has been a big obstacle for him. So that's probably going to be a discounting factor on whatever money he gets on a second contract via RFA. Like, to me, like he probably should be looking for MLE money more than likely.
Yeah, that's a fair point. The availability is definitely a concern. Now, Sal, I feel like you voiced this opinion on one of our previous pods, or it might have been a Horns Over Hoops pod, but I feel like you recently said that you believe locking down the center position is the Bulls' like foremost concern this offseason. When you look at the center position availability, obviously Jalen Duren, he's not going to be an option. Like I've said, I would still make him a max offer in restricted free agency this offseason, simply just to put the Pistons' feet to the fire and force them to tender him that offer, which I think they would. I think they'd match anything he got. Now, Mo had said he thinks that the Suns are for sure bringing Mark Williams back. I'm a little dubious on that just because of his injury history as well. I believe he's hurt right now too, and then the Lakers failed him on his physical last year. When you look at kind of the center landscape, is that where your brain goes, Sal, is we need to lock down a center? We need to use this cap space to potentially overpay for a center?
I mean, with the amount of money that we have, I feel as though now it's time to lock up just the best available player for the price that you're going to get, because we have the potential of getting 2 draft picks in the first round, and definitely we're going to have a decent second round pick this year. Maybe we could look to see what big man's available late in the draft, so we won't have to overpay for, I don't want to say a mediocre player, but a player that we wouldn't otherwise want to invest long-term into. Now, I know there's names out there, like you guys have mentioned, Hartenstein. Zach Collins is always a question because, I mean, he's been hurt. He played 10 games, so he is unrestricted, so we'll see. I mean, I doubt that we'll bring him back. There's Mo Wagner. I mean, there's a lot of decent names out there, but as far as paying amount for him, I feel like you just get the best available position and invest your money into. That position may be a player that plays for another team, or it may just be somebody you see on the bench right now. So,
yeah.
Now, Mo, you mentioned with some of the guys you were naming that you just flat out, I mean, it's a good way to think, but you just think that the playoff teams are going to retain their rotation guys. So like Tari, Eason is out for you, Peyton Watson is out for you. Does the new apron change that at all for you? Because the Rockets are going to be up against it. If Tari Eason, I believe if he commands even $20 million a year in an offer sheet, they're going to struggle to match it. Same with Peyton Watson. The Nuggets, that Christian Brown contract they gave out a couple off seasons ago kind of has them up against the apron right now. Do you think there's a scenario even outside of the Bulls where maybe a Charlotte or a Brooklyn could pry one of those guys away by overpaying them a little bit?
Yeah, it would have to be like such a egregious, aggressive offer sheet to make something like that happen, because I think it's, especially with those two teams in particular, the Denver Nuggets and the Houston Rockets, I think like the calculus I have for both of them is that they may be on shaky footing going into the playoffs, to be honest. Like the Rockets, like we just saw them basically like not have enough gas to take out the Bulls, like the supposedly tanking Bulls. And then the Rockets have just been really the Denver Nuggets, they've just been really inconsistent like this post deadline. And you could say like that shouldn't matter all that much because some of that is March basketball, but at the same time, they came into this season with some real high stakes going, in the offseason to go do that trade to acquire Cam Johnson and ship out Michael Porter Jr. It just has not worked for them this season. Perhaps maybe like there is like just like the same way Pacers need that offseason to get Siakam really like locked in with the whole rest of the roster, and then they go make the finals run. Maybe like this isn't the season for them, but next season is. But I would say like that possibility of like, it to me, if the Nuggets really don't do much noise, like they don't make a lot of noise in the playoffs, I just can't see them wanting to like let somebody young like Peyton Watson go, because they may have to make some real hard decisions about like this current state of the roster. I mean, that like it just feels like it was like maybe like years ago, but this was only like about a year ago. They did the cleaning house that the Bulls sorely need to do. They got rid of their front office. They fired the coach. They just said, everybody get out. I'm done with you. And it seemed like madness, but I mean, they made a good playoff run out of it. I think, I would be surprised if Peyton Watson walks, or I would be surprised if they trade him for anything that's like viewed as perhaps a substandard offer. Because I don't know, like it not only is it like an offer sheet for Peyton Watson, I think that surely would amount to some sort of sign and trade scenario to get him out of like Denver. And like, what are the Bulls going to offer? Like, I don't see the Bulls saying, "Oh yeah, you can have Peyton Watson. Give me Anthony Simons and Colin Sexton." Like, that's what Jokic needs. We've been missing some of that.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but in a sign and trade scenario, the Bulls, since they have cap space, they could potentially just in the sign and trade not give Denver any salary back, but just give them draft picks and a trade exception, couldn't they?
Yeah, certainly they could do that. But again, like you have to look at like, I mean, everything with the Denver Nuggets, right? Their return needs to be somebody that's like getting them to the NBA Finals. Like they don't care about picks at all, I'm sure right now. Like, so it's got to be like an impact player like ready to go now, which is why they likely did the Cam Johnson for Porter deal, because they thought Porter was perhaps washed or something. But then it's like, it's kind of funny when you see like, and I think like this season in particular, I think this is the season where like context for individual players, like I think we all as basketball fans should like start to have an appreciation for what different context does for a player, because Michael Porter Jr. as the third option is a whole lot different than like Michael Porter Jr. as a primary option, albeit on a bad team, but still like for all that usage he was getting before the trade deadline, I mean, I made a very clear case that like the Pistons need to go get him. And I think they may regret actually not going to get somebody like him. Maybe it's like because, Brooklyn, like whatever the price tag would have been on first round picks or something like that, maybe that's not up their alley. I get that. But windows are fickle in the NBA now. It's not like it used to be 20 years ago where it's like, oh, the best team is going to be the best team for like a good 4 or 5 year run. Like it can come and go like that.
Yeah. The windows shut fast in the NBA. That's why we love the NBA, because you'll think a team is going to go on a run. Like for instance, we haven't had a repeat champion in however many years. And I swear every single championship of the last like 4 or 5 years, like I thought the Warriors were in prime position to repeat. I thought the Celtics were in prime position, the Nuggets, and it never happened. So Sal, kicking it back to you here. Now, when we're talking about the Bulls and we're bringing up, some of the wings that are on the restricted free agent market, like a lot of fans do want us to chase a Peyton Watson, to chase a Tari Eason. Those guys are forwards. We do have a little bit of a forward situation already, because obviously we got Matas Buzelis. We're hoping that Noah Essengay is an impact player next year. At the very least, he should be in the Bulls' plans to play at least 20 minutes a game, I would say. And we've had the emergence of Leonard Miller. So when you look at those three options already, how do you feel about, whether it's Peyton Watson or Tari Eason or maybe a different free agent. How do you feel about the wing position and what the Bulls should do this offseason?
Well, as far as filling a position on the wing, I feel like you need to start plugging and playing better players that can fit in the system of a Josh Giddey, and while allowing Modest Buzelis to take his rightful place as the head of the team as they want him to. So a great supplemental player, not necessarily a standout player, but like a supplemental player would do just fine. I know we mentioned Leonard Miller. I know a lot of fans are very happy about Leonard Miller right now, but I believe I must stress that, Leonard Miller, it may be good, but I believe on this, he's a 7 and 8 guy. He's not going to be your answer. He's not going to be your starter. He's going to be your 7 and 8 guy. He's going to come in. He's going to play good quality minutes. He's going to play some solid minutes. He's going to give those guys ahead of him a breather, but I cannot stress enough that's not going to be the guy that we look forward to in the future. Like we've been beating a dead horse now. The market is just kind of dry. Like there's really not many good wings out there that we can really sign. So finding just a good supplemental player. I mean, the only one standing out right now is Rui Hachimura, 28 years old, but providing what he does, because the Lakers are doing really well right now. If they push for a title, he's not going to come cheap. So
no.
To make short of a long story, just finding a good supplemental player that'll allow the players that you already have to grow would be a little bit better than trying to push for a standout player and try to rebuild the system around him. But again, I got to reiterate, we mentioned at the beginning of this show, we may be staring down the barrel of a potential coaching change. So is this the system that's going to be played next season with a different coach? That changes the dynamic altogether.
Absolutely. Kicking it back to you, Mo. We talked about Jaden Ivey just briefly here, but he is the Bulls' restricted free agent. I would assume that he's going to come back next year on the qualifying offer, because I can't really see a team giving him a big offer sheet this offseason. What do you think his offseason is going to look like as far as the market goes out there? Do you think he's going to get any interest? Do you think the Bulls should look to negotiate long-term, or are you content having him back on the offer sheet next year?
Yeah, I think offer sheet would be fine. Going back to that website I mentioned, was Swish, SalarySwish.com, right? So they're calculating Jaden Ivey's qualifying offer to be likely at $8.8 million qualifying offer. So if you get him on the qualifying offer, I think that's fine. Like probably the challenge is all like players who play on qualifying offers, right? There's an implicit no trade clause in that qualifying offer, so they can't trade him if he does come back on the qualifying offer. And at the same time, like I can't see for $8.8 million and kind of the, frankly, deficit of a market for Jaden Ivey, you're probably not going to have many opportunities to trade him worth anything anyway. So you let him play out the qualifying offer if he does come back on that. And at that point, the Bulls have no obligation to him. So I don't think it's the worst thing. In retrospect, when I think back to that trade deadline, if all AK did was simply just stop after that Ivy trade, I probably would have said the Bulls had like a B minus trade deadline. But they really screwed it up, honestly, by just like not like waiving immediately Sexton and Simon and just seeing what you could get out of him. Granted, he's had some like nasty injuries, so it probably is a moot point to a degree. But at the same time, I would have rather at least seen a process that was going to go down some path like that. Where it's like, I mean, you got a top 5 lottery pick for Kevin Huerter, who you probably shouldn't have been bringing back anyway. Because I mean, his contract, his next deal, I'm sure will be like, if it's not close to 20, it probably will be over 20. Depending on like what kind of hero ball he can do in the playoffs. So it was a rare opportunity, I think, for AK to actually win a margin opportunity. But the opportunity is kind of like one part, he didn't really value that opportunity enough. And then also it's just, injury misfortune is also sort of taking away that opportunity.
Yeah, the injury misfortune with Ivy, I mean, people got mad when it was first announced, and I said, oh, he's not going to play the rest of the year. And I was saying it slightly tongue-in-cheek. I was saying, knowing the Bulls, medical staff, we're not going to see him again this year. And I'm pretty bummed that it's actually come to fruition and we're probably not going to see him again this year. So it's been one of the weirder Bulls stories that we've had in a long time. Now, our focus here today was the restricted free agent market, but I couldn't help myself and look at some of the unrestricted free agents and some guys who have player options too. So, Sal, I know we talked a little bit about the 5. There are 3 intriguing 5s who are available for the Bulls, and these guys, they fit into the role of, if the Bulls are trying to get back to the play-in next year, this would be good signings for them, because these are guys who they would raise their floor a little bit. They all come with question marks. So the 3 guys that are going to be available this offseason are going to be Mitchell Robinson, Robin Williams III, and Mamu out in Toronto. Now, Robert Williams and Mitchell Robinson, they obviously have a lot of health concerns. They seem to miss half a season every time. And Mamu, he had a great start to the year with the Raptors. It's the larger sample size doesn't really favor him too much. What are your thoughts with those 3 names pertaining to the Bulls, chasing a starting option at the 5 this offseason?
I mean, basing it just off of what he did to us when we were on the court with him, I say you take a run at Sandro Mamukelashvili. I mean, that man, when he played us, he destroyed us, and he looked like a presence on the court. So, and dare I say, he may even come at a relative bargain price. So you may be able to save a little bit of money in the starting center position. But as far as, I mean, you mentioned Robert Williams III. I mean, I don't mind it. I know Portland what's he making here? $12 million. He's got 8 years. I mean, I really like Sandro a lot better. I mean, the man's got the athleticism. He's got the hustle. He's only making $2.6 million right now, whereas Robert Williams is making, what is he making, like $12 million? I feel like Sandro would be a better player to build off of. Like I said, it seems to me that the direction of this franchise is to go young and build from the ground up. So, and at the end of the day, I'm really hoping that we don't try to push for a play. And I'm really hoping that when we make these moves with the intent to make a postseason berth. You know, I mean, I feel like if we just pick players to get back in the play-in, we're really no better than we were this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us agree that we want them to push, not for a play-in berth, but to maybe even take a long-term look at what they want this roster to look like. But it's Arturas Karnisovas, man. I have no idea what that guy wants to do. He seems to love going into the play-in. What are your thoughts on it, Mo? Because I know in one of your recent narratives per possession pods, you had a Raptors guy on there, and you guys were kind of on them.
Yeah, I was gonna plug that. So friend of the pod is S. Barahani, who's a great NBA follow in general. So he's co-host of the Athletics Daily NBA Show podcast. So everybody definitely follow that. So I've had him on the pod twice, and the most recent. I think it was maybe like a week or 2 before the trade deadline. It was either right before or after. I can't remember it specifically, but had S on, and we talked about Mamu at length. Actually, no, I know it was after the trade deadline, because reason being, so I'm solidly in the Mamu fan club now, and it's like a weird kind of story how I even got to know him this year, because I haven't watched a ton of Raptors games. But around the trade deadline, I have some friends at a great outlet also called the Center Hub. So I was doing a mock trade deadline they ran. And long story short, I ended up getting this weird kind of like wrestling match of trying to get, like, I was trying to trade for Mamu as a fake GM. And the reason why is like the whole process I had for like figuring out who I was going to go after, like I can't actually scout people like you would a real GM. So, I mean, it was pretty much all just like analytics homework I did. But Mamu's numbers, at least at that time, and I'm going back to like where he is today. His advanced numbers just popped off the screen to me. I mean, if you go to Day Baller now, he is plus 5.5% as a spacer, plus 9.8%. These are both relative true shooting numbers. Like, he creates a tremendous amount of impact, and we saw it when the Raptors played against the Bulls. Like, perfect spot up shooter. I like the playmaking he has from the perimeter as well. Like, those are things that I thought were like, yes, sign me up for that. Like, I'm solidly in the Mamu fan club. I think I would love to see him sharing the front court with Modest, right? Like, what I like about Mamu is that he's versatile as a 5 or 4, to where like Moss really could just comfortably be a 3, and we're not trying to, like, in my opinion, overextend him into playing more like as a quote unquote big. I don't view Maz as a big yet. He can evolve into that or develop into that at some point, but he's not there yet. And I kind of view it like the same way Giannis. If you look back at Giannis's development history, those first 3 years, like he was rotating through the entire backcourt before he finally got to being a 4/5. I think if Maz is going to truly be a big, it's going to have to be something like that, where it's like Maz should really like continue to work on his ball handling, continue to work on his perimeter game, continue to like work on being a player who can like consistently attack off the dribble downhill and his handles tight. And you're not worried about him turning the ball over. Like I want to see him doing more of that. So like having a Mamu would be great because like he gives you like legitimate size, versatile size also that could like certainly create space for Modest. Potentially is like an outlet for catch and shoot, or screen for Modest. There's a lot of interesting things the Bulls could really unlock with a Mamu on the roster. And I just like compared to Robert Williams III. I mean, it's just age, availability. I don't think he is anything close to like what he was like when the Celtics went to the finals with him. And then the other one you mentioned,
Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah, so Mitchell Robinson. I mean, I live in New York City, so I mean, I know enough about Mitchell Robinson. He himself has some pretty like pronounced availability issues at this point. I just don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze at this point. Like for whatever amount of money you have to pay him, which is probably too much at this point. Again, given his availability, certainly you like the offensive rebounding, but that's kind of like a niche thing. Like if the Bulls were like a top 4 seed and they're really trying to get over a hump, I would say actually they should look at Mitchell Robinson, but not for where this team is right now. It's the wrong context.
So the last name I want to bring to you guys, I'm going to start with you on this one, Sal. It's a name that he's been in Bulls rumors for, it seems like, years now. I've been pretty anti bringing him in, but he does have a player option this year that he's 100% going to decline because he has been chasing a bigger contract for a few years now. And that is Jonathan Kuminga. He has a player option with the Hawks. He's going to decline that. He's going to hit the open market. A lot of Bulls fans have wanted him in Chicago for a couple years now. How do you feel about it, Sal?
I'll be honest with you. The name I thought you were going to say was John Collins. I heard John. It's going to be. I'm like, because John Collins, he's been rumored here for a while, and I saw he was on the free. He was coming up next season. But throwing it back to Kuminga, man, I like Kuminga. I know that he comes with his kind of like head tilt, like what can he be? But he demonstrated that when he got to Atlanta. I mean, that man went to Atlanta and basically made a new identity for himself. Where I do think it's a huge gamble because players like that just strike me as somebody who kind of want to be in the spotlight, I don't want to say the attention, but need to be how do I put this without sounding like he just needs to be in the spotlight is all. And could come with some head case problems. He's already kind of had a salty relationship with the Warriors. So it's already demonstrated that he may be kind of a hothead, but as far as talent and athleticism, that's a guy you need to go after.
Yeah, he's an all or nothing guy. It's one of those things where he'll either get you 25 points or he's going to get you like 4 points. What are your thoughts, Mo? Have you got to watch him on the Hawks much this year? I've tuned into a lot of Hawks because I like watching Jalen Johnson play basketball, but there's been games he's blown me away, and then there's games where I'm like, I see why Steve Kerr refused to play you.
Yeah, I haven't had an opportunity to see Kuminga yet, like in a Hawks uniform. I would say just broader how I viewed Kuminga while he was with the Warriors. I've never really saw the appeal, and I've never really been one to like take a side with Kuminga in the Warriors situation because what the Warriors do is pretty straightforward. If you're not Steph Curry or Klay Thompson, right? It's like you are there to help the entire system function well. And if you screw up the system, you're probably not going to get time. And I can't argue for Kuminga in that because the whole point of like the Warriors' offensive principles is it is generating the best possible shot, whether it be Steph or not. And you have to be like, it requires players that have the intuition and the field and like make all those different kind of like motion, hybrid, triangle kind of reads that is like deeply ingrained in the DNA of Steve Kerr. Kuminga's just like when I have seen him play, certainly on the Warriors, it's like you can get some of that for a little bit, but ultimately he's going to sort of unfortunately regress to like, I need to take this 15-foot pull-up midi and back you down because I think I'm the guy. And the reality is, I don't know if you're the guy. And also, like, I would say this, like, the prospect of Jonathan Kuminga in a Bulls uniform, I'll say this just to, like, ruffle some feathers, but I honestly do feel this way. Like, I don't think you can have Jonathan Kuminga and Josh Giddey on the same roster. You just can't. Because the ball, it would, if we assume that Billy still comes back, I think it would go against really Billy's principles to have that kind of player on there because Billy wants primarily like transition opportunities more than anything in the half court. And so Kuminga's probably going to slow that down just because his instincts are post play, mid range. He wants those I'm the guy shots, unfortunately. And I don't see that really being something the Bulls are going to like be thrilled about having. I mean, I'm sure Josh Giddey would adapt, but it's just I don't see that design working well for the Bulls. The one positive I could say perhaps is like you certainly would appreciate whatever defensive presence, defensive contribution Kuminga can make, but it's just the offense has been problematic for him for the majority of his NBA career. And I don't know if the Bulls are the place where it's like he changes that perception.
Yeah, those are all good points. Sounds like all of us are kind of out on Kuminga, but he's a guy who's been rumored to the Bulls for a while, so I'm sure those rumors won't die until he signs a long-term deal elsewhere. But we appreciate all your time today, Mo. Here at on Bulls on Tap, we like to close out our shows with 3 different segments. So first, we're going to do on tap or totally crap. I'm going to make a statement. If you agree with the statement, you say on tap. If you disagree with the statement, you say totally crap. So I'm going to start with you, Mo, and then Sal will get your answer here. On tap or totally crap, the Chicago Bulls will sign somebody this offseason for a contract that pays them more than $25 million a year.
Totally crap.
Okay. What do you say, Sal?
I'm going to say totally crap. You're spitting in the face of Josh Giddey if you sign anyone over 25 mil, unfortunately. You cannot pay somebody more than your best player. I'm sorry.
Okay. Next one we got on tap or totally crap. The Chicago Bulls will use their cap space to trade for somebody who makes more than $25 million a year. On tap or totally crap, Mo?
Yeah, on tap. See, that's the way I see it happening. And then also like that gives AK a squirrely. She was like, "Hey, that's his deal. We'll get you on the next one, Josh."
Do you have a name in mind at all?
It's hard for predicting an AK move, especially for something that will probably be like a stupid idea, honestly, if he's bringing in somebody like this 25 million or more. I mean, it's no secret I don't really care for AK. I also think he does not have a archetype that I find useful in the NBA on any level. I think he only has a singular type of player he wants. So he would surely like go get a $30 million version of Dalen Terry or Julian Phillips. Like that's what I have to think about. It's like, who makes $30 million that looks exactly like Dalen Terry or Julian Phillips? Because that's the only kind of player he knows how to get.
All right, Sal, what about you? On tap or totally crap? They're trading for somebody who makes more than $25 million a year.
See, this is one of those where it could go both ways. I could say on tap where the pursuit of somebody that makes 25 million will be there. The totally crap comes in that I don't think AK has the negotiation tactics to actually land somebody that makes that or more. But were you guys just alluding to a confirmed LeBron James sign and trade to Chicago right there? I mean,
oh,
no,
God.
But for all intents and purposes, like, you know, a lot's going to change between the postseason, the end of the season, and the outcome of the finals, draft picks. Like, a lot of that really does shape the trade and the trade market. So, I mean, I want to look to see what happens, barring, you know, there could be a couple, there could be a couple outlying scenarios where a team needs to shift their dynamic, and now a player that makes that, now that big name player has just made readily available. So, but for now, I'm still going to say, I'll say half and half. I'll say on crap.
Okay. And shout out to AD participating in the chat. He says Sabonis is on the way, and
I'll take
God,
him.
I hope not. No, we just
No?
we just got rid of Vucevic, man. What do you want a more expensive Vucevic for? What are we talking? I like Sabonis is better than Vucevic, but he is the same archetype where you have to run a very specific offense, and I just don't know how he would fit with Josh Giddey. But shout out to AD for participating in the chat. Make sure all you guys, I want to hear your answers too to the on tap or totally crap. I got two more for you guys here. So Mo, on tap or totally crap. The Chicago Bulls will make the playoffs, not the play-in tournament, the playoffs before Josh Giddey's extension comes up.
Totally crap.
Okay. Sal, let's hear it. Playoffs, not play-in, playoffs. That gives them 3 years after this one to make the playoffs.
Playoffs? No, I'm sorry. I want to take that opportunity. I'm going to say on tap, man. What he's got 4 years left. I would say if we're not making the playoffs within the next 4 years, one of these hats is going in the garbage bin with the gasoline and the fire, man. If we cannot get it done in 4 years, we have done something terribly wrong. So I say on tap. We're making the playoffs in 4 years.
Okay. All right. I got one last one for you guys. So earlier this week, I tweeted out playoff wins by franchise in the last 10 years. The Bulls have 3. There's only one team below them, and that's the Detroit Pistons. They have 2. They're going to pass them. The Kings are tied with them. Charlotte Hornets are tied with them. So, Mo, my question for you, on tap or totally crap, in the next 10 years, the Bulls will be outside of the bottom 10 for playoff wins amongst NBA franchises. On tap or totally crap?
Outside the top 10 wins?
Yeah, so they won't be in the bottom 10. They won't be in the bottom 10 for total playoff wins in the next 10 years.
Oh, okay. So they are in the bottom 10 right now?
Right now they are second to last.
Okay. Totally crap. Yeah, I don't see that changing.
Sal?
I'm going to side with Mr. Mo here. I'm going to say that's on tap. That's kind of, well, unless we really start dominating, that's kind of an insurmountable feat right there.
Can either of you guys guess who was number 1 for most playoff wins in the last 10 years? It took me a little bit by surprise because I thought there was an obvious answer.
Miami Heat?
No, that's a good guess, though.
Celtics.
You're right. It was the Celtics with 88. Yeah. I thought it was going to be the Warriors with all the championships they won the last 10 years, but I forgot they had a couple years they missed the playoffs. So that was on tap or totally crap. We'll open it up to the mailbag now. So chat, if you got any questions for me, Sal, Mo, submit them in the chat right now. We got a couple that are starred here. We also got a couple on Twitter. I'll start out with Twitter here. We got our boy Samity. Shout out Samity. Hoping to see you. You got to open up that page, man. Samity Eats. We are all waiting for it. So he's got a couple questions here. What have you been enjoying about Bulls basketball right now and also the NBA at large? Sal, let's start with you. What are you enjoying about Bulls right now? And then outside of the Bulls, what are you enjoying in the NBA right now?
What am I enjoying about the Bulls is the fact that we finally get our change. I know we kind of the last few years, we kind of rode the coattails of a franchise that was just good enough to finish 9th. I know we were calling for trade Vooch. We were calling for trade Kobe. We wanted change, and now we got change. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with it. I just hope, because I know we know who our GM is very well. I just hope that we make the correct moves and really take advantage of this rebuild, because rebuilds could be tough. You lose a lot of fans during rebuilds. It's dry. Especially a franchise like the Chicago Bulls, where, we like winning. We have 6 banners. So what am I most excited for NBA wide? I don't know. It's kind of as a whole, NBA wide. I'm just here. I'll give it. NBA wise, I'm excited to see 2 expansion teams coming soon.
Okay. What about you, Mo?
Yeah, what do I enjoy the most about the Bulls right now? I would say I enjoy it's a 2-pronged answer of I do enjoy seeing Modest doing things that continue to sort of demonstrate his growth and development. Probably also I have a deep sense of joy and satisfaction of not seeing Nikola Vucevic either pouting or just having the ball too much, honestly.
Man, you don't miss the towel rips. How do you not miss the towel rips, the chair kicks, the stanchion punches?
Yeah, I don't miss any of that at all. But I mean, I've given him credit. I will give him credit. I think Vooch finally came to terms with the reality of where he is. And I mean, what like Boston Celtics Vooch is way different than Bulls Vooch. And it just underscores like how frustrating this organization is, because like Vooch should just had there should have been the heart to heart with Vooch at some point to tell him like, you need to be like not having the ball as much, man. Like, we don't need you posting up at all, period. And you just like be a guy that's just there to occupy the middle, like drive the lane, get to the rim, and not waste time trying to like back dudes down. Like, I don't miss that. So I'm happy with that. I would say what I'm most excited about, honestly, for like at large NBA is I really want to see the Charlotte Hornets in the playoffs. I think they could do some dastardly crazy stuff in the playoffs, because Khan is clearly, to me, the rookie of the year. He won me over pretty early this season. I didn't think he was going to do that, but like I was high on Khan going into the draft. Like, he has exceeded any expectation I've had, and the Hornets may be like a legit top 6 playoff team if they keep on the right trajectory, just based on like having Khan in that roster. Because he even changed my perception about LaMelo, to be honest. Like, I thought, like, logically, like, yeah, you got Khan now, so you can kind of move on from LaMelo, but like Khan's presence there is just like, it's getting more efficiency out of LaMelo at this point. So it's like the Hornets has something potentially, and just seeing how they went toe to toe with the Pistons when that melee broke out, like I need to see that in the playoffs.
Yeah. You stole my answer. I was going to say the Hornets for the thing league-wide I'm enjoying right now, but the thing with the Bulls I'm enjoying right now is the play of Leonard Miller, and it's something that I really picked up on yesterday. Is the guy, he's big, and he can finish in the paint with both hands. He's a left-handed guy, but if you watch, he's finishing with the right hand more times than he's going up with the left, so that's just like a little nuance to his game that I'm enjoying seeing play out. If I had to go league-wide, since the Hornets are off the table now, I mean, Hornets are off the table. Cade's been my guy all year, but he's out for the rest of the regular season. I'm enjoying the twin turbo lineup in Minnesota. I'm loving seeing Ayo Dosunmu and Bones Highland. The Bones Highland redemption arc is crazy, because a year ago this guy was as close to being out of the league as you can be, and now he's a top 7, top 8 player on a real contender. So I'll go with those ones. Shout out to Samity. He's enjoying Modest's development. Paulo, Jalen, Cade, all good answers. There's a lot of good basketball being played by a lot of young guys right now. So now we'll go into the chat here. We got a couple of questions here. So shout out to One of One Sports. We got, would you rather the Bulls get Portland's pick conveyed to them this year or get a top 4 player out? So I'm assuming he means the Bulls get, like, the Bulls pick falls to like 9th, but we also get the Portland pick at 15 or 16. Or would you just rather have a top 4 pick? Mo, where do you lean on this?
I think unquestionably I would rather have the top 4 pick, because that Portland pick, it's lottery protected, so it would be 15th at the highest, I believe.
Yep. What about you, Sal?
Man, I'm greedy. I want picks now, man. I want picks now. You know what? Where I would say saving it is probably a better option, because you get one player now, see what your roster looks like, and that way you can draft the player accordingly depending on what your needs are, and it'll allow you to fill that hole. But on the other side of the coin, I like players, man. I like getting new players. So I say give it to me now.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta side with Mo. Give me a top 4 player. It seems like if you get Caleb Wilson, Darren Peterson, AJ, or Cam Boozer, you're getting a franchise changer. So having 2 picks would be cool. Having a like quality over quantity is where I'm going with this. Give me 1 quality player over 2 where I don't know what the quality of them is. And then we got One of One once again with another question. Could we go after Yves Missy in the offseason? What do you think, Mo? He's a guy, he's been on the trade block, it seems like, all season.
That's not a name I have honestly even thought of as like something I would want to consider. I mean, I suppose anything's possible in that sense. could the Bulls go after him? I'm sure they could. Would I want them to? I don't feel confident about that one. Because if I remember correctly, like he's pretty much been struggling like for the duration of his whole like NBA career at this point. So I think the Bulls have done way too much of the dumpster diving for young players' experience, and it's like you can only get so far doing that kind of like TJ Maxx shopping. At some point, you need to spend some money in a real store. That's just how I feel. I mean, no diss to TJ Maxx in case like one day you guys get TJ Maxx as a sponsor, but I mean, like the people that go to TJ Maxx for like food.
Yeah. Yeah.
They got some interesting coffee, man. That bag coffee. They got some interesting coffee. The syrups, they got some great syrup flavors.
Oh, man.
I just bought a Dubai chocolate syrup for my coffee. TJ Maxx, man.
Where do you actually get your fruits and vegetables from, Sal?
Where do I get? Oh, man, I don't
you
even
can't
know.
Just eat. You can't survive on Dubai chocolate and like vast amounts of coffee syrup.
And I'm Italian. I beg to differ. What do I?
Where do you land on Eve Messi, Sal?
Eve Messi. Could we go after him? Sure. I mean, this roster's a Rubik's cube of we don't know exactly where we're going in life. If Eve's Messi happens to be a phone call that falls in our lap for the right price, and I mean the right price, not an acceptable like a cheap. Sure, why not go after him? I mean, young guy, athletic, fits the mold of what we need. Is that the guy that I want? No, but could we go after him? Sure, on tap.
Yeah, he's been on the trade block. I thought he had a decent rookie season last year, and then Derek Queen made him totally expendable this year. So if the Bulls can get him for a couple of second-round picks, keep in mind he's a former lottery pick, that's good business. I wouldn't be mad at that. Shout out to Samity. I forgot the second part of your question.
I was waiting
that
for
you
it.
asked on Twitter, bro. My bad. So favorite type of pizza or topping / pizza, he likes mushroom or margarita. You eat a straight up mushroom pizza, Samity? I've never heard that in my life. Just mushroom cheese, that's it. But where do you guys go? I'm give me all the toppings, guys. Anything but pineapple. I'm good with.
I forgot. No, we had that. We had that debate, and I remember that now, Justin. Because I have a very strong dislike for Supreme Pizza. I do consider that an abomination against pizza. I hate that. I'm sorry. I can't get behind Supreme Pizza on any level. But I would say, to actually answer Sammy's question, especially since I have Sal on and I have to talk Chicago pizza. Like my preferred pizza always has been thin crust sausage and pepperoni.
It's a good one. Man, let me see here. Well, here let me blow your guys' mind. Samity said mushroom and cheese. I actually made a 7 mushroom pizza one time. So fun fact about me, my dad used to own a pizza place and I worked there for like 20 years before it. That was actually my first job until he sold it. And the most fun part about the job was just making whatever you want. So me and my buddy, we hit up local Asian marketplace and we purchased every single mushroom that they had on the shelf. Ooh. And we made 7 of them. So it was a 7 mushroom pizza. And oddly enough, it was fantastic. I loved it. It was delicious. But my favorite style, believe it or not, nothing beats. I'm from, obviously, you guys know I'm from Chicago. There's a little suburb outside of Chicago. It's called Addison, and there's an incredible Napolitano style pizza there, and it's called Elio's Pizza on Fire. I'm very fortunate to say he's a family friend, and because I'm Italian and we've come from overseas, like Elio's Pizza on Fire is the closest you'll ever get to the true authentic pizza. And that's what I love that's the pizza I love, is that wood burning, reminds you of home. That's the stuff that hits the spot. So, and honestly, give it to me with the fresh mozzarella, and then you get a little prosciutto on there. That's perfect. There's way too much Italian twang in there. I apologize.
Hey man, you're making me hungry. You're reminding me that if you guys ever make it to the Twin Cities, not that we're known for pizza or anything, but there's a little spot just south of Minneapolis. I believe it's actually considered South Minneapolis. The suburbs and everything get kind of convoluted around here, but Fat Lorenzo's, I'm telling you guys, Fat Lorenzo's, if you're looking for a good slice, that's the place to go. That's if you ever make it up to the Twin Cities here. So I think that's all the mailbag questions. So we close out with a little segment we call Random Bull of the Day. I'm going to give you a random Chicago Bull. You guys are going to tell me what you remember about him. Now, I've been on a March Madness kick lately. Obviously, it's the tournament time. I've been watching a lot of Duke basketball, so we got another Dookie here. The guy I'm thinking of, he is a one-time All-American, one-time NCAA champion, and 3-time All-ACC. Your Random Bull of the Day is Mike Dunleavy Jr. Sal, what do you remember about Mike Dunleavy Jr.?
I just remember him being like, he was the guy that came in after Kyle Korver. Like after we got rid of Kyle Korver, we brought him into like, we got basically Kyle Korver. Like Korver's gone, we got basically Kyle Korver. So I remember him being just a rifleman from outside, man. I loved Mike Dunleavy's game, and I remember following him since he was in his Milwaukee days. And when we got him, I'm like, wow, that's good. It's a plug and play where he's not going to be the rifleman that was Kyle Korver, the hot sauce guy. He was still lights out from that three. And I remember him being a big part of that Pau Gasol team, that 2015, 2016 team. So man, good one.
Yeah. I was probably
Mo, what do you remember?
Yeah, I'll probably say the same things. I mean, I definitely remember just like, Mike Dunleavy Jr. Just come off screens and just letting it fly from three. So like I did enjoy that. I kept up with Dunleavy Jr. pretty good when he was in college also. And I thought like he was, one of the more solid Duke guys at the 2000s, to be honest. And I suppose like the broader memory is just the deep fascination that John Paxson had with Duke University, the same way Jerry Krause had his obsession with Iowa State, that then posthumously turned Fred Hoiberg coaching the Bulls. A lot of Duke guys. Dunleavy Jr. is probably one of my more preferred Duke guys. I don't love all the Duke guys, to be honest, that the Bulls had, but it's like I feel like there probably should be like a sub-ring of honor for all the Duke University guys that have played for the Bulls at this point.
Chris Duhon,
Luol Deng. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Oh yeah.
Jabari Parker.
Jabari Parker.
Man,
yeah. I loved Mike Dunleavy Jr. I remember fans were a little mad. They thought he was a worse version of Kyle Korver when we made that signing. And I think he'd battled a couple injuries in Indy prior to coming to Chicago. And I was telling like some of my friends, I'm like, this guy, he's going to give them more than what Kyle Korver does. Kyle Korver was a deadly off-ball shooter, but Dunleavy, he could handle the ball. He had better passing chops than people gave him credit for. He was big as hell too. He was like 6'9". He could dribble. He could do a little bit of everything. So shout out Mike Dunleavy, man. I think one of my hotter takes, because I really liked his game in college, is there's a world where Mike Dunleavy was like a Gordon Hayward type player if he would have went to the right situation. He just went to a terrible Golden State Warriors team right away, and just then he got kind of shoehorned into a 3-point specialist role. But that guy, man, you go back, watch his Duke tape. He had a lot of game.
Yeah, to be honest, we talked about him already, but that's who, like, when I was watching last season's March Madness, watching Khan when he's still with Duke, that's who I was seeing in his game was very much Dunleavy Jr. because it was a lot of the same kind of things. Like, and to credit to Khan, like his development, like from going from draft to like now, like he didn't look like he was going to be like that much of a threatening athletic type shooter, but he really has leveled up as an NBA player. But he was showing some of that in Duke, very similar to Dunleavy as well, where it's just like, again, being able to come off a screen and just pull up and just let it fly. Like his shooting, that was what I was thinking of when Khan was finishing up at Duke. And so, yeah, like Khan Knippel is like, the new and improved Mike Dunleavy Jr. Like if you put Mike Dunleavy Jr. on all the PEDs in the world.
Yeah, all the steroids. Well, that is Bulls on Tap today, guys. Thanks for coming through, Mo. We really, I wanted to reach out to you. I think I did, like, as soon as we kind of got this podcast going, because I appreciate your insight. You're a very analytical dude, and you take a grand scope of like the data and the league as a whole and everything. So I knew that you'd be a good guest to get on here. Take a second here, tell the people where they can find you, and plug your podcast a little bit, because I really do think you do a great job.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Well, first of all, yeah, it just feels good to be back on the Bulls on Tap pod after just what being a part of this brand and so many of the great people that came before me with the brand. Just being here and talking Bulls hoops. I always enjoy that. Love to come back. So please subscribe to Nearest Per Possession on YouTube. You can follow Nearest Per Possession as well on X. We've got 2 main podcasts. So there's the Nearest Per Possession podcast where I have guests from all across the league, different teams coming in there, just talk about honest basketball. And I feel like that's something that we just need as basketball fans constantly, is like people that want to talk about real basketball in a basketball show and not just like all the sideshow stuff. So there's that. There's also another podcast I have where probably I would hope I'd probably start getting more guests back on that one. It's an X&O focused one called Coach Conversations. I've had 2 episodes, but I really have fun with that one because like that one even more, like it is literally just hoops. Like we do a little bit of talking, then we get right into it. It's film, it's breakdowns, it's cool stuff. And then I've really sort of evolved. Again, I wrote for Bulls on Tap. I'm doing more storytelling now these days through vlogs as well on Nearest Per Possession. So like that's also out there on our YouTube channel. So subscribe, appreciate everybody that rocks with us on the pod and the vlogs and everything. And you can also follow me, of course, personally on X, Twitter at Mo Bankston.
Hell yeah. Sal, take a second, let them know, because you guys just put out a podcast at Horns Over Hoops, I believe today, and I was catching the first 10 minutes of it. So let them know about that a little bit, because that was a good pod.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. So we just released an episode today. It was about what we would do if we were the GMs, because I've been doing a lot of interviews as kind of like the side episodes, and no one really asked us. Like no one asked me, like, what would I do if I was a GM? So you get to hear it in this episode. And speaking of Horns Over Hoops, Mo, you had the privilege of being our first guest on Horns Over the Hoop. You were a first guest. I remember reaching out to you because it was really our first attempt at finding guests. Like we were always kind of shy and recluse. And I remember you had a very big presence on social media. I was a big fan of your work and your writings and your Twitter presence. You had such great posts. So I reached out to you. It was kind of like, now those who know me, I'm a shy guy. I don't really reach out and talk to people. I'm always more like I'm bothering them. But I was very fortunate enough to reach out to you, and you agreed to be our first guest on Horns Over Hoops, and it was such an incredible episode. I'm actually going to go back and listen to it after this because I want to see how much it's aged since then. But
that will be
to make short of a long story, man, to be sitting in the spot where you had hosted before me, and it really is a beautiful thing, and I appreciate you giving us your time today to talk some basketball, because it feels like it came back full circle, and you're just a great guy, man. I appreciate you being here with us.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you guys are doing an amazing job with the podcast. So again, I'm we said before we got started, right? I really am proud of like what you guys are doing with this pod and keeping it going, because it really has been to me a deep institution within Bulls fandom, but also like I think a lot of great people who've developed a content voice or even gone so far. Again, I mentioned like Drew, for example. I mean, Drew covers the Bulls on the beat for the bigs. He was a Bulls on Tap writer very much before that. And, I'm always grateful for like Buzz and Goose Wright. It was, when they were hosting it, this was a mandatory listen for me, because I also feel like the original Bulls on Tap theme song, like I used to crank that in my car, dude. I love that OG Bulls on Tap theme song. But it's just like, this brand in particular, it means a lot to me, because I didn't expect I would have my own opportunity to like be a voice in it, but then to have that and then see like great, cool people that I know are like solid, legit Bulls fans, Bulls voices, like you continuing this. It's just amazing to see that continue to flourish here.
Absolutely. Well, I think that says it all, man. Shout out to everybody who participated in the chat. Shout out once again to Mo for coming on. And we'll be back with Bulls on Tap. Believe we got something coming maybe this weekend. We'll keep you guys in the know on that. Just pay attention to the Twitter pages. Make sure if you didn't subscribe, hit that subscribe button, like this podcast as well. It just helps us get our reach out a little bit more and reach more Bulls fans, and that's what we're all here for. So once again, thanks to everybody for participating. Bulls on Tap will be back.
Sal Benz. Live when the mic snap. Justin. In the cut, bring the fight back. Windy City Talk, turn it down, that's that. Welcome to the show, it's Bulls on Tap. Bulls on Tap, pull it up, press play. Chi-Town Talk, we can run it all day. From the tip-off buzz to the post-game rap. If you rock with the Bulls, you rock with Bulls on Tap.